Hey guy, Lily Singh's talk show is bad. The jokes aren't funny, but her delivery makes them even worse.
What did the rock say to the flower? Okay, bloomer. Skinny jeans, favorite jeans, mom jeans. Sounds like a dope Genuine song. You know what I'm saying?
The segments seem half-baked and are often more confusing than they are funny.
Oh my God.
I'm going to read you an old school definition, okay, and a new school definition of popular slang terms. And it's your job to guess the word and write it down as quick as you can.
Hey, this is straight up homework.
That's right.
And the entire show is set within the parameters of a dated format that they've made no attempt to try and modernize. It's a train wreck that I just can't bring myself to look away from. But it's also what I'm not totally surprised by. I knew almost immediately that this was gonna be bad. I think it was...
Your girl is getting her own NBC late night show.
There, that's when I knew. Because I've been familiar with Lily and her content for a long time, and Lily Singh is not a comedian. Let me explain. Lily is wildly successful. She has almost 15 million YouTube subscribers. She's been on Forbes top 10 list. She has her own company. She wrote a book, and she is the first woman of color to host her own network late night show, which is fantastic. That's great that we're making those kinds of strides. Better late than never. I just wish she was good at it, so I didn't have to make this video. So if you haven't been following this saga as closely as I have, let me bring you up to speed. September 16th, pilot comes out, already a disaster.
I'm very confident and proud of our first episode. I mean, of all the episodes we shot thus far, but the first episode is like my little baby. I'm so proud of it. I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait.
There were several reasons why Lily was immediately met with backlash, but more than anything else, it was because she seemed determined to try and figure out how many ways she could retell the same joke. Monologue about how she's not a white man. Song about how she's not a white man. Sketch about how she's not a white man. Sketch about how she's not a white man. Sketch about how she's not a white... I'm starting to think that Lily might not be a white man.
I ain't no white man.
Now I understand that as a straight white man myself, it's not really my place to be saying these things, and if I was the only one critiquing her in this way, then the problem would lie more with me than it did with Lily. However, this sentiment isn't so much coming from me as it is just me echoing what I've seen from top comments on these videos, from women, from people of color. So don't take my word for it, take it from them. My standpoint is simply from a comedic angle. Using the same joke over and over again shows a lack of creativity. This is the same reason a lot of people tend to not like Amy Schumer, because there's very little variety in her material and it gets stale quickly. Luckily, the other reason people don't like her is because she's also a notorious joke thief, so as long as Lily doesn't... Oh. Fun. But moving on past the show's rocky start, it did seem like after a while some things did start to change, though not necessarily for the better. For one, it seemed like NBC might have stepped in with some notes, specifically about how the audience isn't laughing enough. Because all of a sudden, the monologues went from sounding like this...
I hacked the mainframe.
...to this.
My hair is so long that sometimes it gets stuck in my butt crack.
I swear, it sounds like they're either pumping in fake laughs during post-production or they started instructing the audience to make more noise even if it wasn't warranted. This actually leads to one of my many fundamental problems with the show, the audience. It is so awkward to watch any of the studio segments, which by the way is most of the show, because the crowd goes apeshit for every word that she says.
Because I remember the first time I came out to my friends as a vegetarian.
And it's so distracting because there's almost nothing authentic about these reactions. Sometimes they're not even just laughing at the jokes, they're laughing at the setups for the jokes.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm freezing.
What are you laughing at? She hasn't said the funny part yet.
The only vegetable I would ever eat is maybe a tomato, okay? If that tomato was mashed up and spread on some bread, okay? Maybe a little cheese on there, you know, bake it at 400 degrees. Okay, pizza, let's talk about pizza, okay?
They're just laughing the whole time she's talking. I get why they're probably directing the crowd to amp it up for the camera. For one, most of the jokes just aren't that good, so if they're only gonna laugh at things that are actually funny, it would be uncomfortably silent most of the time. But also, have you ever watched any other talk show? Not just late night shows. Ellen, Jerry Springer, shit, Dr. Phil. There's hundreds of people in these rooms. For some reason, I will assume budgetary reasons, NBC decided they only needed like 25 people for this show. At that point, you're almost better off having no audience, because then there'd be no expectation for audible laughter, but instead they have to make up for how small the crowd is by instructing them to be unnaturally over the top with their reactions, and it's weird as hell.
Nowadays, you just know he's a creep if he's still spending time in AOL chat rooms.
There's times though where it's not the crowd and instead the editing team that did a terrible job of trying to sneak fake laughs into the show without it being obvious. Take this clip for example, where they reuse the same sound twice.
An appropriate response would be to laugh or to comment, ha ha. An inappropriate response would be to slide into my DMs and comment, kinda funny, could be hotter.
And it's such a distinct laugh. How did you think this would fly under the radar? It's so egregiously bad. In addition to these problems with the audience, the show itself is so overly scripted that it leaves no room for authenticity. The core of this show should be the celebrity interviews. It should be nearly impossible to mess these up. And yet they do, because the questions are so meticulously planned out and tightly structured that there's no room for banter or genuine moments. Everything Lily says in response to the guests leads so carefully into the next pre-planned question that it's just not fun to watch. You can see it on the guests' faces. They're not having a good time. Though in Lily's defense, this is generally a problem with most late night talk shows. The celebrities are always on these shows to promote something, so it's inevitable that the conversation will be led there. But at least with other shows like Conan or Seth Meyers, even Jimmy Fallon, it's a little bit more conversational. It feels like maybe they're following bullet points rather than like a verbatim script. And the appeal of these late night talk shows is to see celebrities you like in like a natural habitat where they're just being themselves, telling a story, whatever it is, not doing some poorly written bit that her writing staff came up with. A perfect example of what I'm talking about was this episode with Jenny Slate and Kathryn Hahn. And the interview segment was actually great. Jenny Slate is very funny and she was able to just tell a story and Lily didn't interrupt too much. It was fun. I would have liked to see 10 more minutes of this, but instead they come back from commercials and do this almost 7-minute long game, I guess, where they're not really talking to each other anymore. It's just Lily holding up pictures and reading some dumb joke off cue cards and then they're just like, oh. And I don't understand why you can't just talk to them for 15 minutes. Why can't that be what this show is? You're 3 comedians, right? So just be funny, talk to each other, be natural, it'll be funny. Why does every segment of the show have to rely on some lazily written script? The absolute worst case of a segment being too scripted was this Halloween phone call with Hassan Minhaj. As you can see, she's dressed up like him, and as you can probably guess, she's going to call him.
We should give him a call. He actually has no idea I dressed up as him.
Hey, Lily, what's up? Oh my God, are you serious?
Oh my God, are you serious?
Okay, this is all scripted.
Lily!
Lily!
Stop.
Stop.
And not only is it all scripted, but the main joke of the script is that she's just repeating everything he says like how a child does to annoy their sibling. This is a really awesome joke, because I am not. Wouldn't this have been better if you, I don't know, actually surprised him? Wouldn't that have been more entertaining? Why even do a segment like this if you know it has to be a pre-recorded video where the punchlines were written for children? Oh hey, a transition. Remember earlier when I said Lily Singh isn't a comedian? This is what I'm talking about. Going through her most viewed YouTube videos, you start to understand why so many of the jokes on her show seem to be targeted at children.
But I think we can make this more relatable with the caption, Mom said I could sleep over!
Because she's always targeted her jokes at children. Like she used to make sketches about parents and school and parents and school. She carved a niche for herself on YouTube by making edgy humor for children, which is okay, I guess, to do on the internet if that's your thing, but now she's hosting a talk show that comes on at 1:35 in the morning. I just don't get it. This is why I will never understand why a YouTuber, a successful YouTuber, would want to go from a job where you can essentially do whatever you want. You're beholden to nobody. You can make the type of content you want to make. To go from that to network television, the strictest creative medium that there is? Why? And if you're Lily, why stray so far away from the content you've proven you're capable of making? You used to do surface level observational humor for children, and now you're hosting a talk show. It just doesn't make sense. It seems like she set herself up to fail. Why did she think she could do this? Oh, I know why. It's because YouTubers think they can do anything. If I had to choose one job where the people who do the job have the biggest ego in the world, it would without a doubt be YouTubers. And I'm including myself in this. I'm guilty of this too. There is perhaps no greater feeling for a YouTuber than to upload a video, see that it's doing well, scroll through a bunch of comments that are mostly positive, maybe you even get a random text from another YouTuber whose opinion you respect, and he says, "Great video," and you're like, "Thanks, wow," and it goes straight to your head, and you feel like the coolest, funniest, smartest person on earth. And it's a great feeling, it really is. But it also blinds you to reality. You're never as good as the overly positive comments will make you seem, and you're never as bad as the negative comments will make you seem, but it's important not to absorb that and let that influence how you feel about yourself. Even if it's good feedback, it's important not to take that on and just have an ego that goes through the roof. I imagine this is probably what Lily Singh experienced for a long time. For several years, she made videos that were mostly very positively received by a lot of people. She was able to read thousands of comments from child fans who don't know what comedy is yet, but she could look at them and say, "Wow, I'm so talented and funny. People love me. I could do anything." And now she's left the comfort of that YouTube bubble and thrown herself to the wolves, and I think maybe for the first time it's suddenly hitting her, oh my God, maybe I'm not as funny as I thought I was. Her entire career, she's had millions of people tell her, "Lily, you're so funny, you're perfect," and I think there's a chance it boosted her confidence a little bit too much. I think ego management is something that a lot of YouTubers struggle with. It's an important part of the job, filtering through large amounts of excessively positive comments without letting it go to your head. I know for me, it's a bit of a cycle. Like generally my best creative efforts come when I'm a little down on myself. Like maybe my last video didn't do very well, or I just don't feel very funny right now. So suddenly I have an urge to prove to people, no, I am funny. So I work even harder. I'm inspired to stay up all night editing something. And oftentimes that extra effort leads to a video that is well received, and I get all that great positive feedback again, and I start to buy into it and feel really good about myself. And then I suddenly lose that desire to work as hard, and I just play video games for like 4 days straight until I feel like shit about myself again, and the cycle continues. So that's how my ego usually manifests itself. And I think for a lot of YouTubers, it's a similar thing where at the height of their ego, they are at their worst while simultaneously feeling invincible. It's why Logan Paul, during the peak of his relevance, probably thought, "I could never fuck up." And then he did fuck up, and it came as a huge shock to him.
I've made a severe...
I think there was just no way that YouTube was going to prepare Lily for the storm of hatred she's been receiving, and now she's in self-defense mode. Lily strikes me as the kind of person who, when her abilities are questioned, resorts to bragging about her accomplishments to validate herself to her naysayers. Don't believe me? Here's a compilation of that.
I always thought that by 30 I would be married with a few kids and be living in a mansion. Who knew getting a mansion would be the easiest thing on that list? I actually just changed my Instagram handle to @Lily. That's right, just Lily. I'm famous.
Raya is invite only, which means everyone on it is
Either a celebrity or an insanely beautiful person. I was invited. And in the last decade, I've gained about 15 million subscribers. I've written a book as well. You've written many, but I've written a book, and I know it's hard. Writing a book is very hard. He could leave his family and come live with me at my house. I'm probably gonna be making all the money anyway. I have a lot of money.
No other talk show host or comedian would even think about talking like this because it comes off as so pompous. It turns people against you. Can you imagine Conan coming out and doing a monologue like, "Guys, tonight I just want to talk a little bit about how rich I am, and I'm better than you, and I'm very tall, and I'm rich."
He won't be crying when I drive him away from his parents' house in my Tesla. Just saying.
No one wants to hear people brag about how much money they make. There's nothing comedic or relatable about that. But Lily's facing more backlash right now than she ever has, so her instinct is to combat that by saying things like, "Guys, I'm actually pretty successful, and this show's really good."
We're actually one of the few shows to have 100% fresh ratings from critics. Can we take a moment?
I don't know if you saw, but Emily, you know Emily over at Cosmopolitan, she said this show's actually pretty good, and so I don't know why you don't like it. I mean, we all know that 10 critic ratings are more important than over 1,000 user ratings that say the total opposite. Also, fuck you, I'm rich. Here's another miscellaneous gripe I have about her show. She has this segment called Gift Baskets, where she basically takes a few people who have messed up in some way and she fills a basket for them with a bunch of bad jokes. And it's a pretty good idea for a segment, but I realized after watching them all how often the punchline is just penis small.
The golden snitch is from a game in Harry Potter, and they're the smallest balls in the game. So basically the same size as yours. I got the travel size because I can't imagine your tiny penis would need any more than that. Here's a penis!
You have a team of professional writers, and this is the best they could come up with? Or here's another joke I really enjoyed about producer Todd Phillips. She spitefully points out that the first movie he ever directed has a bad Rotten Tomatoes score. I found this to be especially ironic, given that the movie she's calling out has a higher audience rating than her own show. Now that's funny. I will say part of me empathizes with her. She's obviously trying very hard to make this work. I think she's just in over her head. She posted a vlog recently going through a day in the life as a head of a talk show, and oh my God, I got stressed just watching it. She goes through the details of a standard like 14-hour work day where she's filming 2 shows, going through constant makeup and wardrobe changes. She's filming other bits for the show. She's managing a huge staff of people that are all looking to her for direction, and it's clearly starting to wear on her.
A big part of this, if I'm just candid with all of you, is this is a lot. It's like a lot to learn. I'm always tired. Everything I experienced previously in my life, I feel like I experienced it now tenfold. You know, before there was 3 people making videos about me online, now there's 100 people making videos about me online that are mean.
I kind of feel like at this point, maybe she's no longer in denial about the show and she knows that it's just not very good, but also she's trapped in it.
We're gonna do this. We're committed to this.
The show needs big, sweeping changes in order for it to get better, but there's no time to do that because they're already in the middle of making like 90 episodes. So if it's new writers that they need or a bigger studio that they need, they can't really stop and do anything about that right now because they're too busy drowning trying to make the best of what they have. It's also a case where they have shows that are airing in like December and January that they filmed in like August. So even if they are trying to adapt this show, they can't retroactively change something that's already been written and filmed, except by adding more laughs. This is why patience is so important when it comes to late night talk shows. Very rarely are they a finished product overnight. I remember when Seth Meyers started his show, he did what every other late night show host did, and he came out and he delivered a monologue, and it was kind of weird because everyone knew him from this, and now he's doing this, and he just wasn't very good at this. And so you know what they did? They stopped doing that. They adapted the show. They put him back behind a desk, they used graphics to enhance his punchlines, and now it's much more comfortable to watch because they tailored the show to fit the strengths of the person hosting. And this is what desperately needs to happen to A Little Late with Lily Singh. Right now, she's just doing a condensed version of every other late night show. So don't do that. Change the format, make it your own. The monologues are not her strengths, which makes sense because she doesn't have a stand-up background, so it's not inconceivable that she wouldn't be natural in this setting, but if that's the case, then don't do a traditional monologue. Maybe the interviews could be longer and a little bit looser so it doesn't feel like Mindy Kaling is being held hostage. Also, while I do respect her decision not to talk about politics on her show, avoiding current events altogether kind of renders the show pointless. Like whether or not you agree with the politics of someone like Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, there's still a reason for people to watch these shows because they're covering topics that are relevant to millions of people. Lily Singh is doing 5-minute monologues about how her hair is long. How do you expect people to tune in and care about that? I mean, clearly they don't. No one is watching this show. One of the only times I've ever seen her try to do something topical was when they referenced the OK Boomer meme, but the entire segment was literally just puns.
What did the guy say to his questionable medical test results? Okay, tumor.
Team of professional writers. 2.5 minutes of puns. And to make matters even worse, it didn't even do well. Keep in mind, we're talking about someone who has 15 million YouTube subscribers, and most of the clips on her show's channel don't even have 100,000 views. Universally beloved actor Nick Offerman has a secret talent. 14,000 views. Nick Offerman 2 weeks ago on Hot Ones, a YouTube show, 4 million views. It's almost like you don't need to be on network television to produce high quality content that a lot of people will see. And YouTube is a totally valid platform where you can build a loyal audience of supportive followers instead of being exposed to the inevitable criticism of a broad mainstream audience. It's almost like that because it is like that.
Was this a bad idea?
Yes. Originally, I was going to end the video there, but there's one more thing I want to talk about that I think does a good job of summarizing both the points I was trying to make with this video. The most frustrating thing about Lily, and what I think will ultimately lead to the downfall of her show, is that she cannot handle criticism. Since her show has started, there have been a ton of people providing rational criticism, constructive criticism, that she just brushes off as hate. Dozens of YouTube videos critiquing her show, explaining not just what's wrong with it, but also how it can be improved. And her response is, imagine posting mean videos to YouTube. Aww. Criticism is not mean. It's not mean to say, hey, I think you could be better if you did this. That's helpful. That's how you improve. Yes, plenty of the comments she's receiving are not helpful at all. There are people just saying, you know, women aren't funny, they're saying racist shit, and that's fine to ignore all that because those people are wrong. But you're lumping those kinds of comments in with useful criticism and just ignoring all of it.
What I've done here is I have gathered some positive comments. And the reviews are from places like The Atlantic, Variety, CNN, Decider, Cosmopolitan, Deadline. Whereas before there were negative reviews from like Angry Virgins.
Yep, that's right. If you dare dislike the great Lily Singh, then you're just an angry virgin. The 3,000 or so ratings on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb were written by people who've never had sex before, and that's why they're so mad. Look, Lily, I understand. It doesn't feel good to receive negative feedback. Obviously, you would prefer to just have people tell you you're great and you're funny and everything's perfect, if it's true. But if there are areas where you can improve and you're not going to be honest enough with yourself to recognize that, you at least need the people around you to be blunt and tell you how you can get better. Otherwise you won't. And it's concerning because in that same vlog, you said this.
And everyone here is way too nice to me and they never want to call me out about anything.
Okay, it's one thing to ignore comments on the internet. That's fair. But even your staff, your writers, your producers, none of them are calling you out on anything? Well, that's a recipe for disaster. Sure, maybe that helps spare your feelings in the short term, but in the long term, it's gonna be the reason your show fails because you're too stubborn to adapt. Lily thinks that because she used to be successful on YouTube, I'll remind you by making content for children, that she knows better than everyone else, and she will not value your opinion unless you're saying something nice about her. Weird, why does that sound so familiar?
I don't like cyberbullies, and you're a cyberbully.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, good luck with your show, Lily. Sorry for being mean. I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Raycon, for sponsoring this video. Guys, are you tired of this? Me too. Which is why I'm glad I started using Raycon's E25 wireless earbuds. They sound great, they feel good in my ear, and they're stylish as hell. They're so discreet, I bet you didn't even notice I've been wearing them in this entire video. Please don't rewind and check, just believe me. One reason I find myself using these earphones over the other headphones I have is because I like to listen to music as I fall asleep, and as you can probably imagine, it's super uncomfortable to have giant bulky headphones on your head while you're trying to lay on a pillow, so popping these in my ears sends me right to sleep every night. Thanks, Raycon. They're also great for working out, which is something I did once, because there's no dangling wires and they feel super snug in your ear. Not only do Raycon earbuds sound as good as other premium brands, but they also start at about half the price, and in addition to that, they've got a bunch of great Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals going on this weekend, so check that out. Click the link in the description. They come in a bunch of different styles and colors, and they currently have 14,000 5-star reviews, so how about that? Get yourself a pair at buyraycon.com/DrewGooden. It's a great way to get a cool pair of headphones and also support my channel in the process. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and remember, if you ever criticize someone, you will go to jail.